Could you confirm this? There's a spoiler. The two-part finale of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1 rehashed some of its characters' problems that appeared throughout its first season, along with setting up Georgie's The Big Bang Theory story at last. The point of contention that Mandy's career had been in Young Sheldon seemed almost overcome in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1, as Georgie had finally understood Mandy's perspective. However, Mandy's promotion to a full-time position came with its share of problems. After Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage episode 21 revealed, she had been working with her ex-boyfriend Scott as her boss for weeks. Georgie feeling an outsider among the McAllisters was also a major theme of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1, which returned in its finale, with Jim entertaining the possibility of accepting Fagenbacher's offer to buy McAllister Tires being the last straw for Georgie. Indeed, Georgie felt betrayed by Jim's actions, especially after the possibility of Georgie inheriting the shop was discussed. However, the fight over McAllister Tires also highlighted how Jim would have never thought of selling it if he hadn't met Georgie and witnessed George Sr.'s death, making the thorny argument even more difficult because of everyone's feelings. Welcome to Movie Spy. Georgie and Ruben's partnership effectively kickstarts Dr. Tire. Georgie and Ruben by McAllister Tires in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage episode 22. Georgie's opposition to Jim accepting Fagenbacher's offer stemmed from feeling betrayed, as it would mean Jim wouldn't leave the auto shop to him, and left out. As Jim calling it a McAllister family decision left Georgie feeling not part of the family he did his best to be accepted into. Fagenbacher being introduced to Georgie and Mandy's first marriage as Jim's enemy made everything worse, as Georgie felt he was being left without a future for someone who didn't have Jim's respect. The question of how Georgie built his Dr. Tire empire permeated the entire Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1, as The Big Bang Theory had already established his future success without revealing how that would come to be. Georgie and Ruben buying McAllister Tires from Jim surprisingly revealed their partnership as instrumental for the beginning of what would become Dr. Tire in The Big Bang Theory, while also disproving the theories that Georgie would compete with Jim's auto shop or that he would inherit the shop down the line. What Mandy's promotion can mean for Georgie and Mandy's future. Mandy puts her career first, but there is still something between her and Scott. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage episode 21 finally gave Mandy what she wanted ever since first appearing in Young Sheldon, with her return to full-time employment as a weather girl. However, the good news came with the attached revelation that accepting the position would have meant working again with her ex-boyfriend, with whom Mandy had already worked when she was in San Antonio, before she returned to Medford. While working again with Scott seemingly caused Mandy no problems, having to come clean about it with Georgie proved Mandy's biggest struggle in the Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1 finale. Georgie's opposition to Mandy's choice and the repetitive arguments about it presented Mandy working with Scott as a future contentious point, especially as First Marriage episode 22's ending showed Georgie and Mandy both resigned to having to trust each other. However, the few exchanges between Mandy and Scott also hinted at things not having truly ended between them. If Mandy maintained that she just didn't want to deal with Georgie's jealousy, it was also true that Scott hadn't told his fiancée about his past with Mandy, potentially muddying the lines of their professional relationship in the future. George's death impacted Jim's decision to retire. Jim's decision showed how George Sr.'s death profoundly rattled Jim. Jim's retirement was never contemplated in Young Sheldon, nor at the beginning of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. However, First Marriage Season 1 revealed one devastating detail of George Sr.'s death in the reaction Jim and Audrey had to the tragedy. This was already evident in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage episode 5, Thanksgiving, when Audrey checked how many beers Jim had drunk. However, it was even more impactful for Jim, who cherished his bond with Mandy but also never forgot what happened to Georgie's father. While Jim only thought about retirement after receiving Fagenbacher's offer, he never would have entertained it before George Sr.'s death, especially given the animosity towards Fagenbacher. However, Jim seriously considered selling to Fagenbacher because he realized George Sr. was younger than he was, and he nonetheless died unexpectedly, putting in perspective his and Fagenbacher's petty enmity and reminding him how precious and ephemeral life was. How Georgie's new business sets up a bigger role for Mary in Season 2. Mary's decision to invest in Georgie's business makes her a key character in Season 2. Although The Big Bang Theory Season 11 established Georgie's success, it never revealed what caused him to get the money to start his tire empire. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1's finale revealing how that happened solved another mystery at last, not letting theories continue about how Georgie would become rich in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Instead, it revealed how he had never been before the start of his business venture. which wouldn't have been possible had Georgie not asked his mother, Mary, to invest in his idea. Georgie getting his money through a loan only given to him thanks to Mary putting her house up as collateral effectively made Mary have a vested interest in Georgie's success. While the revelation makes Georgie's rags-to-riches story even more impressive, it also ups the stakes and expectations for his venture, as he would never want to see Mary out of his childhood home. Moreover, Mary investing in Georgie makes it more likely she'd participate more in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 2, not just as Georgie's mother, but as someone interested in their investment yielding some returns. What Georgie and Mandy's choices in the season 1 finale set up first marriage season 2 and beyond. First marriage season 1's finale set up Georgie's business and his and Mandy's problems. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1's finale effectively set in motion Georgie's story as known in Big Bang Theory. Indeed, while establishing Georgie and Mandy's feelings for one another and willingness to make it work, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episodes 21 and 22 hinted at the clouds on the horizon for their marriage, in the form of their persistent trust problems with one another and Scott and Mandy's potentially lingering feelings for each other. Georgie and Ruben buying McAllister Tires simultaneously kickstarted Georgie's story as an entrepreneur and created an interesting partnership between two characters who had rarely tolerated one another before. Mary's interest in their venture also introduced another unexpected variable to Georgie's business, making the storyline entertaining even knowing where it would lead. Finally, the McAllisters' shocking agreement in Jim's choice to retire opened the door for new storylines unlike ever before in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 2, which could cause more problems for Georgie and Mandy, while also creating much more compelling developments as a result. Thanks for watching.